Finally, for the first time in a very long time, I can actually make a positive, or at least mostly positive, AEW video. In my opinion, AEW was the second best pro wrestling brand of the past week. And honestly, for various reasons. Obviously, selling so many tickets to Wembley is a big deal. I talked about this a couple months ago, or like a month ago, that if they sold more than 50,000 tickets, that is most definitely a win. And they seem well on their way to being beyond a win. This is just a giant win after win after win, selling all of those tickets. And there's all these rumors of a new TV deal coming up with Warner Brothers. Perhaps the number being over-exaggerated, but that might not be the case. But it is just a rumor about just how much AEW will be making from this TV deal. But getting a new TV deal with Warner Brothers is a good thing. And hopefully it's long-term for AEW. They need a long-term deal because Warner is something AEW needs. That's another thing I've discussed in a past video if you want to find it. But all of those things, to me, are positives in the short term. In the long term for AEW, for me, the best thing they're doing is trying to right some wrongs and trying to clean up all of these messes this organization has made over the past year. Of course, possibly getting CM Punk back soon. More than possibly. It's going to happen. Getting a new show with CM Punk as like the main point of it is big as well. CM Punk has been a draw for AEW in the past. But to me, the biggest deal of all is the hiring of Will Washington. And look, honestly, I don't know jack shit about Will Washington. I've never listened to his Fightful podcast. I've only seen him pop up in my Twitter feed every once in a while. I know nothing about him. I hear he is related to Swerve possibly, which is great. Swerve, if Will Washington is responsible for Swerve being on more TV, that is another win for AEW because it's been proven that Swerve draws in quarter hours of Dynamite. But to me, it is just Tony Khan hiring Will Washington to possibly help him book, or at least help him be more consistent with his booking, be more consistent with storytelling, and most importantly, be more consistent with getting the right people on TV and keeping them on TV to be consistent with it. Now, of course, the bigger step, Tony Khan admitting that he might need some help is a big step, but the bigger step is if Tony Khan will actually listen to Will and let him help bring consistent booking to AEW. But just the fact that Tony Khan is actually going out to get help for me is huge because I've talked about on this channel in the past how I didn't feel like Tony Khan might ever do that because this is his baby and he wants to be in charge completely. But Will has a lot of work to do. I think AEW has a lot of work to do still when it comes to storytelling and still when it comes to getting people over. But I hope this is the step in the right direction for the company long term. It is needed. The booking on AEW has been horrible for 6 months or longer now, like 7 or 8. It's time to turn stuff around when it comes to the booking, and I hope this is the step in the right direction. Rampage last week was actually interesting to me, mostly because of the final deletion type deal with the Hardys and Isaiah Cassidy stealing the spotlight, honestly, in that match, which was fun. So even Rampage over the past week was watchable for once. It seems as though with the new show coming for AEW, they're saying Rampage is going to become more like Sunday Night Heat of the past. I don't know if that means, just lesser known people getting the shot there since Dark and Dark Elevation are gone. I hope that's not totally the case. I hope Rampage isn't just going to become the new Dark or Dark Elevation where it's just a bunch of pointless matches with a bunch of people that aren't over. Sunday Night Heat still helped tell the D stories and even C stories for the WWF back in the day when Sunday Night Heat was first on. The first several years of Sunday Night Heat were still carrying over storylines from the the D stars and the C stars. And even Sunday Night Heat even did storylines of their own. Stevie Richards especially was great on Sunday Night Heat. Stevie Night Heat, baby. It was good. So I hope it's less like Dark and Dark Elevation and actually more like the original Sunday Night Heat, where we still get storylines and not just a bunch of cold matches on Rampage, or it's just going to be even more pointless to watch than it already has become. As for Dynamite, the best thing about Dynamite last night was the backstage stuff with Miro showing up and going into Tony Khan's office, and Thunder Rosa showing up and going into Tony Khan's office. I liked that a lot. That was outside the box. They've been off TV for a long time. There's been backstage drama about them coming to the show to try and get to Tony Khan and give him a talking to or right some wrongs to Tony Khan. That was good stuff. I enjoyed that. I thought that was good creative there. Although I have to laugh, Tony Khan said before starting AEW how he doesn't want to be an on-screen character. And yet Tony Khan has been on multiple episodes of Dynamite with his big announcements and now playing a part in possible storylines. So I have to roll my eyes at that. But I did like that being a backstage segment last night. The main event was what it was. Moxley and Omega in a cage. I'm sure it had enough indie nonsense to make the hardcore AEW fans love it. It wasn't bad by any means, but sometimes Moxley's just the drizzling shits to me, honestly. Moxley is always getting caught on camera blading, and he does it so much that it doesn't even mean anything in this big match. This is the match to blade in, Moxley. Make it mean something, but Moxley blades in matches that don't mean anything. So it gets to this point that it doesn't mean anything. And then he's always caught on camera blading in the first place, which is bad production, but also just bad out of Moxley doing it so badly in plain sight that it takes me out of the matches. However, the creative in that match and Callis turning on Omega was great. And most importantly, Dynamite ending on a cliffhanger, I love that. Give me more of that. Inject that into my veins. Give me cliffhangers in wrestling again. Please, I beg. Do more of that kind of stuff, and I will praise AEW all the time. Some of the other matches, though, weren't my cup of tea. The booking for the women in AEW continues to be pointless. Orange Cassidy's never going to be my favorite thing. Him getting a match every single week on Dynamite doesn't do it for me. I mean, I like that it makes that title mean something, because there's so many titles in AEW, and most of them don't mean anything. So seeing the title consistently is good. But Orange Cassidy to me will always be a subpar comedy shtick, and making him the focal point of Dynamite clearly doesn't work for the ratings. But overall, for AEW, I like what I'm seeing lately. The last couple of weeks is making AEW gain momentum again in my eyes creatively. I talk about a lot of creative and booking on this channel, and I always will. That will always be the main point of this channel. The main point of my classic wrestling videos is always what was happening on screen, what was happening with the feuds, what was happening with the booking. That's what has always drawn me to pro wrestling, and that is the main thing AEW needs to fix, and that's why for so long at this channel I've been dogging AEW, but now, once again, I do feel like it's making some momentum up with WWE. And WWE has been doing some of the things that I am giving a lot of fault for AEW for, but WWE is coming off of a successful pay-per-view or premium live event, and I have to give it some credit for that this week. And AEW still has a long way to go with the booking to be a little more entertaining for me to put it in first place. And I don't know if I'm going to do this every week, but I would like to try to give my top 3 pro wrestling brands of the week. So AEW is at number 2 right now. It's gaining ground on WWE again with the booking and with them trying to fix some problems. I hope they can actually fix those problems, though. It's good that they recognize it. It's good that Tony Khan wants some help. And it's good that they're selling tickets in England. But I see people talking about, why not just move to England? They can't do that. They will oversaturate that market like they have in America. The reason they're selling so well in England because it's their first time there. If they were to go in England multiple times a year, that territory would be dry too. Lastly, I saw a video going viral for AEW about somebody on TikTok. I have no idea who it is.
A big problem with AEW is that almost everyone's character is I wrestle good, and that's it. Kenny Omega, Claudio Castagnoli, Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson. I've never seen wrestling fans less interested in a Daniel Bryan World Championship feud. It would be like if Game of Thrones only showed fight scenes for 8 seasons. Even if they're great fight scenes, who gives a shit? We don't know anything about these characters and won't care if they live or die.
Talking some truths in a video, but offending AEW diehards, of course, because they can't take criticism. Now, some of that video maybe was overdramatic, but some of it's just true. What AEW gets wrong with characters is, A, there's not a lot of layers to them, but also it goes back to illogical storytelling. And I talked about this in the past. Danielson went from being in a heel against Omega to joining the Blackpool Combat Club just because of Regal, to then going into a feud with MJF as a face after being a heel originally, but as a face he has no... The Blackpool Combat Club is not in his feud with MJF at all, and then after that feud, after he takes his ball home for a while, he comes back and is supposed to be the leader of the Blackpool Combat Club. This is the problem with the booking, and why I hope Will Washington can help in the first place, is because the consistency with these characters is all over the place. So AEW diehards can get mad at people that point out truths about the characters on this programming. And it's not so much that the characters are weak, although they could add more layers to them. It comes back to illogical, inconsistent booking that doesn't get these people over. And Danielson is... I've talked about this before. Danielson was my favorite wrestler of the 2010s. But right now in AEW, I care less about Danielson than I cared about him back in ROH when he was first becoming a big thing. He was better in ROH than he is right now in AEW. And that is saying a lot in my opinion, because he should be a bigger star than he is in AEW. But because of the bad, inconsistent booking, he's lost his star power.